morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, it's been kind of a chilly fall gather, but the calves are looking great. And it was back in September, but it only seems like a few days ago that we were out at the Old McDonald's Music Festival and had such a terrific time, and the Western Spirit Band just felt so welcomed. And I don't think we've ever been treated better anywhere. And on our way back, Cowboy poet and Alberta rancher Bryn Thiessen asked me to stop by and help judge the Cowboy Trail Cowboy Church Ugly Ranch Horse Competition at the Bears Paw Rodeo Arena near Cochrane, and that was a lot of fun. And I got to visit with some fine young working cowboys like Josh Ould and his wife Beth. And you'll hear from Josh today.
Starting him, he was a little bit of a sun fisher, but not too bad. He was pretty honest about it. He'd buck straight.
Yeah. On the Rangeland News, well, we were in New York City at the same time as U.S. President Donald Trump, and you're going to hear him talking about the effect of the new trade agreement on Canadian dairy farmers.
And I know they can't open it completely. They have farmers also. They can't be overrun.
And it's about time we found out what Baxter Black has been up to.
Lately, I've been packing a GPS locator when I'm checking cows. Now I can find my way back to the horse trailer.
We'll hear from the legendary Sonny Hancock in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
You always had to rope him or else have a bucket of oats or corn, and the old devil was sure to blow up and buck on a wintry, frosty morn.
Something different in the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear horse training file. How do you describe some of your classic buck-offs? And I'll visit with working cowboy Josh Ould after Mike Blakely with a brand new song about something a lot of us can relate to, a little too much work afoot.
Well, there's too much work afoot here, boys, I believe I've had my fill. There's fence to mend and chores to tend and trouble with the old windmill. There's stalls to muck and I drive a truck more than I ride my horse. There's too much work afoot here, boys, somebody better tell the boss. Tell him there's too much work afoot here, too much hay to haul. No broncs to bust and my spurs are rusted, hanging on the bunkhouse wall. And I have not cinched my saddle or roped wild cattle in way too long. There's too much work afoot here, boys, I do believe I'm gone. Well, the pay ain't bad, the food's real good, and the boss ain't too damn mean. It ain't far to town, so there's girls around for a Saturday evening spree. But I long for change on open range where wilder outlaws roam. There's too much work afoot here, boys, I do believe I'm done. 'Cause there's too much work afoot here, too much hay to haul. No broncs to bust, my spurs have rusted, hanging on the bunkhouse wall. And I have not cinched my saddle or roped wild cattle in way too long. There's too much work afoot here, boys, I do believe I'm gone. What may, I'm bound to stray where rougher trails may lead. 'Cause I long to spur some green broke fur while turning a wild stampede. But these old fat cattle, they run to the rattle of a feed sack in the pen. There's too much work afoot here, and right here's where it ends. Tell the boss there's too much work afoot here, too much hay to haul. No broncs to bust and my spurs are rusted, hanging on the bunkhouse wall. And I have not cinched my saddle or roped wild cattle in way too long. There's too much work afoot here, boys, I do believe I'm gone. There's too much work afoot here, boys, adios so long.
Josh Ould and his wife Beth are kind of typical of today's young working cowboy couples, and it was so great to see them and their brand new baby girl back in September. Josh, it was great watching you in the ugly ranch horse competition here, but I'd just like to know a little bit of your background. Like right now, you're working out there in the Many Berries area?
Yeah, I work for Bayat Britsky. We run 800 cows on 40,000 acres, cow-calf operation.
Right. And you got a fairly good-sized string of horses, or do you ride some colts doing that?
Yeah, I got a couple of kind of broke horses, one 7-year-old, a 5-year-old that's lame right now, and got a couple 3-year-olds and a couple yearlings that are just learning how to lead. So.
Man. So in a typical day, I know they'd all be different. You know, every day something else comes up. But what sort of this time of year would a typical day be for you down there?
Well, we just finished pulling bulls, and we'll start rounding up a little bit in about a month or so here, and then start weaning and then get into kind of fall work, feeding come January. So.
Is most of the work horseback, or do you wind up in a pickup or on a quad sometimes?
When we're moving cows, we're always on a horse. Feeding in a tractor. This year I'm going to feed with a team, so
nice.
See how that goes.
Yeah. Is your feeding period very long when you're there?
About 4 months, 3.5, 4 months, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you feed like heifers and cows separately, or are they all together?
We feed the first calvers, the ones that calved last year, and the ones that are going to calve. They get fed together with a few older cows, and then the other older cows are all in 2 different groups. So we have 3 groups of cows all together.
And when will calving start for you there?
In March. March and April.
Right. And there's some adventures there, like have you got, fairly big calving areas or smaller enclosed paddocks, or how does that go?
Yeah, the first calvers, they all get calved in a corral in the yard, and the rest of the cows, they all get calved out on pasture. So, I don't know, a couple sections.
Wow. Yeah. So you make regular patrols and a night shift sometimes?
Yeah, this last year we were driving around on a quad quite a bit because there was too much snow for a horse. You could drive on top of the drifts with a quad, so that worked okay. But typically we ride around on a horse and check at calving and a couple times a day. And,
yeah. A lot of fellows I've known over the years have got great stories about having to do a C-section on a frozen side hill at 2 o'clock in the morning with a flashlight and your horse holding the cow. You've been through a few episodes like that?
Well, not too many C-sections out on the side of the hill, but
pulling the backwards ones.
Yeah, a couple of backwards ones and that kind of thing, and you just do what you got to do.
Gotta love that cowboy attitude. And there's more from Josh in a little while, and a song from another Blakely, not Mike this time, but Kim, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West on our recently concluded 17th annual Spirit of the West cruise. It was an incredible experience for sure, and the 3 days we spent in the heart of New York City were unforgettable. And you will hear more about it in the coming weeks. But oh, is it ever good to get back home to the ranch with the horses and hopefully get in on some of the fall gathering and sorting and shipping that's still left. And we certainly got some interesting looks and comments walking down Broadway, about 80 of us in our normal attire, guys all wearing hats and boots, and a lot of the locals were fascinated with our hats. Never seen anything like it. And they really have no idea what our chosen way of life is all about. They've never experienced the things that some young ranching cowboy couples like Josh and Beth Ould and many of us live with all the time.
Just do what you got to do, and prolapses, that kind of thing.
Yeah, have you a few of those to deal with?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you take your shirt off when it's minus 20?
Try not to.
Oh, man. Yeah, that can be quite a process, that's for sure. So what's your background? How did you get started in this line of work that you're doing, and where did you grow up?
Well, I actually grew up in Bowden, Alberta. I've always had a love for horses and cattle. I spent some time working cattle on foot and riding quite a bit, and then I always wanted to put the two together. So,
working cattle on foot, would that be at your home place? Or?
My grandparents had a ranch, or a farm, I guess, and we'd work cattle there. And I went to Douglas Lake in 2011 for a year. Spent a year out there. And
worked with Stan Jacobs and the gang.
I did, and I worked for Steve Brewer.
Right.
Yeah, on the south end of the ranch.
Oh gosh, I only rode there 3 days when Trevor Tebow was chaperone foreman. He was looking after getting all the replacement heifers moved from Chaparral to English Bridge about the 3rd of December. And he says, come on down, you might enjoy this. And I'll tell you, that was cowboy heaven.
Yeah.
Rode alongside Jake Cootley.
Yeah, Jake Cootley was a fun guy to work with. He didn't work any harder than he had to, and he still got the job done.
So soft-spoken.
Yeah. Learned a lot from Jake.
Yeah, place with a lot of great traditions. So from Douglas Lake, did you wind up over in Many Berries country?
I actually spent 4 years becoming a heavy-duty mechanic.
Oh, really?
And I've always wanted to work on a ranch and ranching lifestyle, so I moved down to Many Berries. I actually spent 2 months in Mongolia last year. So
I was going to come into that, too. Going to ask you how that came about, what you were doing, and what things were like there, what you observed. Well, you won't want to miss that. And, our Spirit of the West group was staying at the Sheraton Hotel in Times Square, New York. It's 50 stories high. Our room was on floor 17, and all we could see was skyscrapers from our window. But, when after a busy, long day was finally done, we'd drift off to sleep, and I was dreaming about being back home in the saddle.
He ain't nothing but a cowboy, just in boots and Wrangler jeans. He's a rider and a roper, sometimes gentle and sometimes mean. Some nights he dreams of range fires, young wild horses and stampedes. But each night before the sunrise, he dreams of what he really needs. He don't always dream of roundhouse or ghost riders in the sky. Most nights he dreams of moonlight shining in some cowgirl's eyes. It ain't just spurs and saddles that cross a cowboy's mind. It's usually love and rainbows, what a cowboy dreams at night. He's always been a loner, that's the life he chose to live. But he's never been a taker, because he has his heart to give. Well, the movies made him an outlaw, lonesome, ornery, and lame. It's plain to see those movie makers never walked through a cowboy's dream. 'Cause he don't always dream of roundhouse or ghost riders in the sky. Most nights he dreams of moonlight shining in some cowgirl's eyes. It ain't just spurs and saddles that cross a cowboy's mind. It's usually love and rainbows, what a cowboy dreams at night. It's usually love and rainbows, what a cowboy dreams at night.
That's Kim Blakely, no relation to Mike as far as I know. And now let's get back to Josh Ould and the time he and Beth spent in Mongolia.
So we spent 2 months there working with 3 missionary families. They have a feedlot there. They buy cattle from the nomadic people, and they raise them up in the feedlot. The critters there, they don't get fed real well over winter, so it takes a couple of years to get them big enough to go in the feedlot. And then, they sell the meat into the city. They have a butcher facility there as well. And it's
how big a city?
State of the art. Oh, the city that they sell to is the capital city, Ulaanbaatar. But they live, the feedlot's about 8-hour drive away on not such a great road. So.
I'll bet. Now, do they handle cattle with horses in Mongolia?
They do some, yeah. Some people just do it on foot or with a motorbike or whatever they have. But yeah, there's lots of nomadic people that ride horses still, and at the feedlot, they only work cattle on horseback when they move them from the feedlot down to the butcher facility, which was about 2 miles, I think.
Coming from the world we live in over here and all the amenities and everything we take for granted, were there some real eye-opening surprises for you when you kind of observed firsthand how people live there?
Just to see how poor people were, I guess that was the biggest thing for me. You know, most of the nomadic people didn't even have a vehicle, let alone 2 or 3 like most of us have here in Canada. And so that was interesting. You know, most of them have a little tractor, they call it a putt-putt, and a motorbike. They pretty much all would have a motorbike.
Do they have any understanding of what life is like on the ranches of Western North America over there?
A little bit, like
they've heard.
Most of the nomadic people have TV.
Is that right?
So it's interesting. You'll see a ger, which is their tent that they live in, out on the side on the steppes of Mongolia, and it'll have a satellite dish on the side of it, and a solar panel for power, and then they still don't have anything else. Like they don't have running water. You know, they got to take their motorbike down to the creek and fill jugs of water, and so it was quite something. It was fun
interesting to see how they would sort of react or regard a working cowboy from the North American West. You know, I would think you'd be a bit of an icon that they might, respect right off the bat.
One thing I found really interesting is I brought my hat that was made by Vern Elliott. I brought that, and every Mongolian guy would just really liked my hat. They have a thing for hats, and they couldn't believe how much I paid for it. But
I bet that would be a lifetime's wages for most of them.
Yeah, it would be.
Well, there's more from Josh in a little while, and coming up, Baxter Black's experience taking a portable GPS locator along when he's out riding checking cows, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at Charlotte and the GPS. Ladies and gentlemen and followers of cowboy humor, I have carved another book from my funny bone, guaranteed to tickle your humorous. Sorry. The title is Scrambled Wisdom. Almost isn't is it? Which almost makes sense. Regardless, it's almost $20, only $19.95 plus shipping. Call 800-654-2550 or online at baxterblack.com. Lately, I've been packing a GPS locator when I'm checking cows. Now I can find my way back to the horse trailer. But the GPSs in rental cars with all the streets and highways displayed turns my blood cold. Jim and Steve and their wives rented a big SUV. They planned to tour New Mexico, take the side roads, and see the sights. The vehicle came complete with a GPS that talked. "Great," said Lewis and Clark of the Pecos Wilderness. "We can set our course and not get lost."
Welcome to the All-Star Transgender Find a Fool Anywhere Global Positioning Satellite Device. My name is Charlotte, but you may call me Charlotte. What is your name?
"Jim," said Jim.
"Chimp is nice to meet you."
"It's Jim."
"Chin is to meet you."
"Jim."
"Slim."
"Jim."
"Chim."
Well, okay. And I'm Steve.
"Sleeve."
"Steve."
"Sleeze."
"Steez."
"Sneeze."
"Streeze."
"Squeeze."
Okay, all right, that's good enough. You win.
Okay, Skim and Cheese, where would you like to go?
Truchas.
I'm searching. Is it in the state of Santa Fe in Argentina?
No, it's Truchas, north of Santa Fe, near Chimayo on the reservation.
We can make reservations.
No, you can't. Not in Argentina. You have a...
You do not have razor voice. I am chirping for a hotel on the village of Tostado.
It's not Tostado. I mean, it is. No, it isn't. It's Truchas. I mean, yes, but Truchas in New Mexico.
Please do not shout. It will override my audio. Are you driving?
Can't you even tell if we're driving? You harebrained bug psychic. I'm pulling out on the highway no matter what you...
Wait, Sleaze and Cheeve, you've gone too far. You're past...
Shut the trap, you jabbering two-bit satellite signpost.
Do not yell at the monitor. You are 250 meters beyond the turn to Argentina. Please go back if you do not wish to go to Tostado.
We are going to Truchas, you incompetent map snatcher.
You have taken the wrong turn. If you continue at this speed, you will...
Nice shot. Now, which way is Taos? This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan.
Are you looking to improve production and increase profitability in your beef operation? Come to Beef Tech, November 8th and 9th. This interactive beef industry learning event will give you the opportunity to explore and experience emerging technologies and innovative management practices. Keynote presentations include Marty Seymour, Farm Credit Canada, the Peterson Farm Brothers, and Jim Bottomley. Don't miss this great opportunity to learn from leading industry experts and increase your profitability. Register at northlands.com/beeftech. Now, just ahead of the rangeland news, here's a guy we haven't played in quite a while. He has been doing both country and cowboy songs for a long time. From Alberta, this is Barry Laporte and Amber Leaves.
As the amber leaves come tumbling down, they turn and they twist and touch to the ground. The green summer ranges have all turned brown. The high country cattle are all moved down. The signs of the season are all around. Winter's closing in. The high mountain peaks now
news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says, 2 weeks ago, U.S. President Donald Trump and U.S. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue were both in New York City, and so were we. I think their advisors told them to come and find us and do an interview for the Spirit of the West, but I was too busy doing interviews with real ranching families and working cowboys. So Mr. Trump had to wait, but this'll have to do. It's reaction from the president to the newly signed NAFTA reenactment in this report from Gary Crawford.
This is a very, very big deal for our farmers.
President Trump at the White House talking with reporters about what was called NAFTA, from now on called USMCA, U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, after the U.S. and Canada finally reached their part of the deal.
The deal includes a substantial increase in our farmers' opportunities to export American wheat, poultry, eggs, and dairy, including milk, butter, cheese, yogurt, and ice cream, to name a few. I want to be very specific.
The agreement does not open up the Canadian market totally to U.S. dairy products, does require Canada, though, to increase its import quotas.
And I know they can't open it completely. They have farmers also. They can't be overrun. And I and I tell them that. I say, look, I understand you have limits, but they could do much better. And we've opened it up to our farmers.
The president will sign the USMCA by the end of November, send it to Congress for its approval. Trump said he thinks if lawmakers treat the deal on its merit,
it will pass easily, because it's a great deal.
In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
A donation of a 19,000-acre ranch to the University of Calgary Faculty of Veterinary Medicine is the largest gift of its kind to any Canadian university. WA Ranches near Cochrane, Alberta, is worth an estimated 44 million Canadian, I think, and was donated by Calgary entrepreneurs Jack Anderson and his daughter Wynne Chisholm. The plan is to build it into a beef cattle center of excellence using the grasslands and the ranch herd of about 1,000 commercial Angus cows for integrated research and education. Producers having trouble selling soybeans for the export market this year might want to consider feeding the soybeans to beef cattle, according to North Dakota State University Extension livestock experts. Soybeans can be used as a protein supplement for beef cattle as long as the beans are a small part of the cattle's diet, according to Carl Hoppe, Extension Livestock System Specialist at NDSU's Carrington Research Extension Center. Whole soybeans typically contain about 40% protein and 20% fat, he says. Nutrient analysis is recommended so soybeans prior to feeding correctly balance the rations. And a reward of $5,000 is being offered for help in finding 30 head of cattle that are believed to have been stolen from a farm in southeast Kansas. It's alleged the cattle were stolen September 21st in the evening or September 22nd in the morning. Authorities were called to the scene on September 22nd after the owner couldn't find the cows when it got daylight. The 30 calves were missing from a pasture near Pittsburgh, and the group was a mix of steers and heifers, being predominantly solid black or black and white black baldies with a single red steer in the group. The cattle have a yellow numbered ear tag in their left ear and a purple fly repellent tag in the right ear. Local authorities are asking anybody with information about the theft to call 620-724-8274, or a tip can be submitted at crsoks.org. An investigation is underway in Garfield County, Utah, after several cattle were found dead and others were found in poor body condition. In a statement from the Garfield County Sheriff's Office, it indicates 50 to 20 cows and calves were found dead in the Capitol Reef National Park, and the cause of death is believed to be starvation. Other cattle were found to be malnourished as well. Utah has been going through a drought, and the area around Capitol Reef National Park was determined to be an extreme drought at that time. As the fall calf run rolls along, the next regular cattle sale at the BC Livestock Co-op in Okanagan Falls is October 15th. Kamloops October 16th, and Williams Lake calf sale is October 16th. The regular sale is October 17th, and you can get all the information and sales schedules at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, over the Innisfail auction market, pre-sort sales are underway now. Calves are weighed Sundays. They like to get them started by 8 in the morning. And you can call 1-800-710-3166 to book your calves. And the next horse sale at the Innisfail auction market will be Saturday, October the 20th. Get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Are you ready for the final item? Okay, here's another one I've never used before, actually never heard before. It's more of the wisdom of trick roper Bud Edgar. What Bud says is, eating a clock is really time-consuming. It reminds me of one from Baxter Black a while ago. A watched pot never boils, and a boiled watch won't keep time. Okay, enough of that. That's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, some colorful ways to describe your most spectacular buck-offs when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Coming up, more interesting conversation from working cowboy Josh Ould, and then a song from Tim Huss that I think you're absolutely going to love. But first, I think my horse wants to say something. Go ahead, Cody.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
The way I see it, you'll find a silver lining in just about everything. So as Summer says, adios amigos, it's just another great reason to get over to Irvin Tack and Western Wear. Boots, jeans, shirts, gloves, hoodies, jackets, exciting fall arrivals to keep you toasty when the temperature dips and drops. Irvin's has something for everyone, from cowboys and cowgirls to city folks too. It's Western Wear with a welcome twist. Off Highway 305 on Highway 2 by Crossfield, open 7 days a week.
Canada's largest Western store.
Well, as we sat around the table in the ship's dining room with a lot of ranchers and working cowboys and farming families on our recently concluded cruise, often the subject of horses came up, and we all talked about some of our better bronc rides and our more recent buck-offs. And at our age, we hope we don't plan to do too many more of those, but I got a kick out of how they described them. Just saying I came off my horse sounds a little bland, but here are a few of the more descriptive terms we heard. Well, I bought some real estate. Oh man, did I get ironed out. I just performed a random gravity check. Oh man, I visited Dirt City. Oh, I performed an equine-assisted aerial maneuver. I had a transitional relationship with my saddle. Or, I like this one, I fought the lawn, and the lawn won. Now, it's a good thing that most horse folks, most horses today, aren't that serious about bucking. But there are still some pretty good ranch horses that'll, on occasion, revert to testing the rider's resolve. And for years, I didn't mind those as long as I could keep from spilling off on the first jump or two. If I could somehow get in the middle, grab my rope or the horn, and then say, okay, I got this covered, and get them disengaged and then line them out, felt pretty good. But being closer to 80 than 70... oh man, can that be true? And with a lot of extra plumbing in my abdomen now after that kidney transplant, I'd rather not have to do that much anymore. Although I did survive a little bucking episode a couple of weeks ago. And there will be times when you might be better to look for a good landing spot and make a kind of a controlled bail-off rather than stay on board and make a pounding. Anyway, for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Boy, our horses are looking good going into winter, and I think a lot of that is because we give them a daily ration of Hoffman's Horse Ration. And you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Farm Fair International, one of Canada's top agricultural shows, returns this November 7th to 11th. Guests from around the world will gather in the Edmonton region to show and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, share knowledge, and build our industry. While you're there, enjoy shopping in Ram Country Marketplace or take in the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Make sure you're there. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. The working cowboys of today do like cowboys have always done. They take a lot of pride in their gear, their trappings, and their attire. And a lot of them do some leather work and rawhide braiding, a little silversmithing and silver work, and they develop their unique style that's really individual. And Josh Ould is no exception.
Take you a while to develop the look you've got, because it's got its own class and everything, a bit of a buckaroo look to it.
Yeah, I suppose it took a while. I build most of my own gear. Actually, my wife made the vest, and I made the Armidas, so it's... I don't know, it's just what I like, and so it works for me.
And the cuffs. And getting back to here, you were riding a young horse of Bryn Thiessen's, a pretty good stout strawberry roan that apparently dumped Bryn off a little while ago, and I noticed when you first got on him, he was a little bit humpy. You've had some history with that horse?
Yeah, I rode him, I think I had him for 2 months, and I put 30 rides on him this spring. During calving and a bit of branding, so he's kind of done everything, and just he's a little bit cold back sometimes.
I guess that would be it, kind of.
But he's pretty honest about it for the most part. It'll be in the morning when you first saddle him up, but he's good dragging calves and dragging the calf sled and all that kind of.
And it was interesting how when you first got on him, that little humpiness was certainly there, and you had your right hand wrapped around your rope pretty good, but there was I could tell you'd been there and done that many, many times, no problem. But he kind of had that in his mind that he was going to pitch for a little while, but man, once you started working the cow, there was no more interest in bucking.
Yeah, he's a pretty level-headed horse, and he never pitched me off, so...
in the time you had him, did he come close?
No, you know what, he never really offered to buck too hard, so, yeah. The Blue Roan I was riding today, he's a 3-year-old, and starting him, he was a little bit of a sun fisher, but not too bad. He was pretty honest about it, he'd buck straight. But he'd get some air underneath you anyway.
Is that right? Did he ever put you off?
He did buck me off once, I think. But, he's still coming around, so we'll see. He might have a few more bucks in him.
Is that right, man? But he looks so good in here.
Yeah, he's only got about 20 rides on him. So.
Really? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's a lot of fun riding them when they're a little bit fresh like that, but I'd rather if they didn't.
Well, yeah.
For the most part.
Josh, it's great to meet you, and I just respect you guys so much for everything you're doing, and thanks for sharing a little bit of it here.
You bet.
Well, we were driving across that beautiful country of the West from Stettler to Cochrane and picked up CKFM from Olds, and right after the Spirit of the West closing theme faded away, we heard this great song from Tim Huss, The Wild Rose Waltz.
There's pickups in the parking lot, the full moon is bright. There's a dance at the Range Road Hall tonight. The band's tuning up and they're stocking the bar. Ranchers are coming from near and far. If you fall in love here, that's nobody's fault. Won't you dance with me to a bucking horse waltz? And it's Saturday night in Alberta. Everyone's doing alright. The four winds they blow and the second cut grows. Springtime comes slow and the foothills they roll. Steel guitar cries and a fiddle replies. The Rockies are always there on our left side. Everyone's doing alright on a wild rose Saturday night. Wild Bill Pito could have told you a tale of the pecan at powwows and the Burgess Shale, the battle and the bow and the bighorn at the Basca, the Peace and the Old Man. Follow a river from the glacier's last stand down the incline towards Palace Missouri's land. The cowboys at Steadler are leaning on a rail, talking about Danes in the Simmental sail. Hot irons of Brandon along 22, and ain't water they're drinking at Water Valley Saloon. Chuck wagon drivers, they all can agree, was a hell of a year at Ponoka Stampede. And it's a good night to be in Alberta. Everyone's doing all right. The four winds they blow and the second cut grows. Springtime comes slow and the foothills they roll. Steel guitar cries and the fiddle replies. The Rockies are always there on our left side. You can see a long way to the right, between the Muskeg and the Medicine Line. There's a number on a sweater that's hanging up high from the rafters of a roof on Wayne Gretzky Drive. Northern lights haunt the Saddle Hills. Bitumen and bovines are paying the bills. In Cardston and Crow's Nest they're still trying to find a place or trace of the lost Lemon Mine. It's Saturday night in Alberta. Everyone's doing all right. The four winds they blow and the second cut grows. Springtime comes slow and the foothills they roll. Steel guitar cries and the fiddle replies. The Rockies are always there on our left side. And everyone's doing all right on a wild rose Saturday night.
Oh, man, Tim, I think they would dance to that in the dance halls of Texas. Oh, boy, what a job. And looking forward to being on stage with Tim Huff at the up-and-coming 100 Mile House Cowboy concert. And I think that's in February. Anyway, looking forward to that. Well, coming up, it's our classic Song of the West, and I think you're really going to like it. Then the legendary Sonny Hancock in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. This is our classic Western song segment, and this particular one will be sung by the Sons of the Pioneers. It's taken from the album Trail Dust, which was recorded in 1963 with Dale Warren doing the lead singing on the piece. And to my knowledge, this is the first time it was actually recorded. Now, you'll hear a piano introducing the song. That piano was played by the great Don Robertson, one of the co-writers of the song, and the one that actually wrote the music for it. Now, you might remember a song from 1956 called The Happy Whistler. That was Don Robertson. He wrote it and he whistled it. Elvis Presley recorded over a dozen of Don Robertson's songs, and some of the hits he wrote included I Don't Hurt Anymore from Hank Snow, and Does My Ring Hurt Your Finger from Charlie Pride, Please Help Me I'm Fallen from Hank Lachlan, and so many more that you would recognize. This one really works at this time of year. The Sons of the Pioneers and Don Robertson's Autumn on the Trail.
When it's autumn on the trail and the leaves have turned to flame, I seem to hear the breeze wandering through the trees, whispering your name. All along my lonely ride, so clearly I recall when we traveled side by side. It was autumn on the trail that you love most of all. Do you ever think of me? Do you remember the lovely plans we made by the campfire's last glowing ember? How I'm longing to return to the happy days we knew. Oh, my darling, how I yearn when it's autumn on the trail to be sharing it with you. Happy days we knew. Oh, my darling, how I yearn when it's autumn on the trail to be sharing it with you.
Beautiful baritone voice of Dale Warren. Over 40 years he was the trail boss of the Sons of the Pioneers, and listening to that, I haven't read it or heard it, but I would guess that Don Robertson's piano style was quite likely a huge influence on Floyd Kramer. Now, a cowboy poetry legend, Sonny Hancock, and one of his classics, the Horse Trader poem.
He's got a loop built, swinging my rope. There's a trader showed up at the ranch the other day. He's all set to wheel and deal. He's taking horses, saddles, bridles, bits, anything he could buy or steal. And I got to thinking about old pal and wondering what he'd bring, 'cause he's parrot-mouthed and crooked-legged, and he'd just turned 12 last spring. And anything he could do, why, he couldn't do too well, and I had him right here close at hand out in the round corral. Well, that trader took one look at him, and lawsy, don't you know, he found a lot of other things wrong with him that I didn't suppose it'd show. He'd make me an offer, and then he'd take another chew, and I'd talk about how dry it was and wonder what the hay it'd do. But we finally did strike up a deal some later in the day, and I had the money in my hand. I watched him drive away. Then I got to wondering about that old horse, you see, and wondering just where he'd wind up and who his new owner would be, because you always had to rope him or else have a bucket of oats or corn, and the old devil was sure to blow up and buck on a wintry, frosty morn. Well, they was having a little auction sale. It wasn't too far away, so I thought I'd just drive over, not having too much to do that day. And I heard that trader's testimony with old pal standing there, and how he's plumb safe for anybody, and you could catch him anywhere. And there's a lot of other things that I didn't know that you could do, like rope steers and calves off of him, and pick up bucking horses too. So when the bidding started, I just jumped right in the game, and I guess I mustn't have quit in time, because the ring man called my name. Well, it cost me about $200, but old pal, he's mine once more, but by God, at least he's 4 years younger now than he was when I owned him before.
Well, thank you so much for riding along, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time when I'll have another very interesting guest. Special thanks to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan of Meadow Springs Guest Ranch. Man, they went above and beyond the call of duty helping hold everything together on our recent cruise and our visit to New York, and they celebrated their 30th anniversary and Mark's birthday by working their butts off. And remember to check the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com. And drop by the Main Event Horse Expo in Chilliwack next weekend. I'll be there at the Trainers Challenge Round Pen doing the commentary, and hope to look forward to visiting with you. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.